Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here again with the Vampire Counts, going to be taking on the Tomb Kings, so we're definitely in for a skeleton grind. Let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions. For any of you who have seen any of my Kemmler builds, this will be very familiar. Got a front line of skeleton spearmen, second line of skeleton warriors with the Königstein stalkers in the center, and a third line of graveguard with the Sternsmen also in the center. Heinrich Kemmler with Invocation of the Heck, Raised Dead, and Dance Macabre. He's also got the Chaos Tomb Blade and a corpse cart with Unholy Lodestone for some additional regeneration. We've got Varric's Reavers, 2 units of Blood Knights, and the Dire Pack currently doing some scouting up on the hill here. We are on the MP, let's see, what's this one? Alpine Ridge, I believe it's called. We'll check after the fact, but this map, the defining feature is this giant hill here in the center. There's also plenty of open space around the sides, including 2 patches of forest. There's another patch of forest in the rear of this area. Not too much in the rear of this area. You have this kind of long, stringy patch forest, which you can hide in. You can see these Blood Knights are hidden here. And yeah, typically this map is a rush map, so both sides are going to be rushing up the hill to try and gain an advantage. That's why I Vanguard deploy my Dire Pack up on top of the hill, so I can immediately have visibility on the other side of the hill. Sometimes people will do what my opponent has done here and deploy with some artillery back further back from the hill, so that, you know, if you rush up the hill, they're just going to shoot you from the ridge line and force you to come down off that defensive position. We're up against the Tomb Kings here. We've got Cetra the Imperishable, his spell loadout. If we go ahead and take a look, he's got Cursed Blades and Incantation of Protection, as well as the Incantation of Desiccation. Very good stuff. Front line is going to be Tomb Guard, and looks like some Skeleton Spearmen scattered around as well. We've got 2 Shopti Great Bows and 1 Bone Giant. So relatively straightforward Tomb Kings build. So without further ado, let's get the battle into full gear. So we're going to be pushing up again just across the ridge here. You can see my Blood Knights moving around the side again to try and gain visibility as much as possible. I can see my opponent's got a pretty heavy missile build, so I'm going to be positioning my Blood Knights in the woods so they're hidden. That way my opponent can't shoot at them. If he had a couple of carrion, then they would be able to go scout around and keep line of sight on these Blood Knights. You can see the one shot from the Bone Giant does connect before they're hidden. Takes out about 4 unit models. Very good use of the Bone Giant there to take on Blood Knights, Terrorgeist, things like that. Previously, I would have said that this matchup is definitely in favor of the Tomb Kings, although I think that might be changing with the buffs to Blood Knights and with Kemmler just being an absolute powerhouse, which I never thought I'd say those words. Can definitely be quite powerful. You can see we're, again, just repositioning the Blood Knights, trying to make sure we're out of line of sight, because if you're hidden, obviously your opponent can't shoot at you. Likewise, these Blood Knights taking a very wide path all the way around the ridge and coming up through these forests here, taking advantage of the terrain as much as possible there. And yeah, we're just going to take on some cinematic actions. You can see the Bone Giant, not really sure who to shoot at here, because most of my heavy cavalry is hidden at the moment, so they're going to turn their attention to the Königstein Stalkers and the Sternsmen in the center, which is, you know, not a terrible pick. I'd probably focus on the Corpse Cart, just because it's going to provide that regeneration as well as the Vigor Mortis effect. So if I were in the Tomb Kings player position, I would definitely be focusing on the Corpse Cart, and it does look like he's doing just that, making some solid contact there with the Bone Giant. Unfortunately, not going to do a whole lot of damage. Probably won't be able to destroy it before it reaches that front line. But yeah, pretty solid stuff. Definitely eating away at the healing cap of the Corpse Cart, which can be very important in and of itself. You can see, again, just pushing up my cavalry through the woods here so that we maintain that line of sight blockage as much as possible, so that we can get as close as possible without my opponent returning fire. Just while the infantry hordes advance, you can see shambling skeletons going to meet their southernly cousins here. Going to be in for a fun time. Sternsmen definitely taking some heat, but they are nearby the Corpse Cart, and they've also got Kemmler nearby, providing that Master of the Undead as well. Looks like actually not quite close enough to be providing that, but yeah, mainline engagement is going to get underway here. Tomb Guard will do very well, obviously, against Skeleton Warriors and Skeleton Spearmen, but Graveguard will actually beat Tomb Guard one-on-one. Because of their better armor. They also have an anti-infantry bonus as well, even though they're about the same cost. Graveguard are definitely superior infantry. You can see we're pushing up and around the sides here. The Graveguard coming in, sort of closing the noose, so to speak. Going to be pushing up and around the side here. We've summoned up Krell in the back line to start dueling it out with Cetra, so you can see the kitty there. Definitely going to be sending Krell for a bit of a ride, but once Krell gets up and starts to get some attacks in, it'll be great. Blood Knights coming in here, shutting down these Ushabti Greatbows super hard. Blood Knights with their high charge bonus, and since they got an AP buff in one of the recent patches, they're going to do quite well here. Just instantly shut down those Ushabti Greatbows. You can see a Dire Pack having to be used to tie down some Skeleton Spearmen, which is definitely not ideal. But the infantry line's going pretty well. Kepler Guard holding up decently, although they're facing off against the Sternsmen, which again, kind of a better counterpart to them. Königstein Stalkers definitely suffering, but we do throw down a Dance Macabre just to help the melee attack and everything of the units in this area. Invocation of the Heck as well. But yeah, you can see we've taken out those Ushabti Greatbows. These Blood Knights, though, coming around now to this other side here, the Blood Knights and the Varix Reavers, taking down the other unit of Ushabti Greatbows, the Chosen of the Gods, and also inundating this Bone Giant, not allowing it to fire. Obviously, it's going to be significantly less effective in melee than it would be firing at range on those Blood Knights. So you can see Tomb Guard in the front line doing well in certain pockets, but definitely suffering overall to the superior Graveguard. And yeah, Cetra not taking too much damage yet. Krell's having a hard time staying in base-to-base contact, but it looks like he gets maybe a solid hit there before getting knocked around some more. But yeah, he'll be continuously just poking away, and as long as I keep Krell close to Kemmler, it's not like he's in danger of degenerating too quickly because of all the healing effects that Kemmler has. You can see the Bone Giants push through the back line, trying to get into a safe firing position, but both the Ushabti Greatbows are gone already, and so the Blood Knights have now been able to start turning their attention towards Cetra. You can see this unit going to be pulling back in the back line to get an open charge, try and get a clean charge on Cetra there, and these Blood Knights getting a nice open field charge on the Bone Giant that had come through in the back line here. And again, with their AP buff that they got in a recent patch, they're definitely going to be getting some really nice work done here. You can see they're taking some damage, but they're definitely getting the work done as well. We've got the Corpse Cart and other effects on station to heal them up, whereas Kemmler is over on this side, healing the Blood Knights over here. Krell, not sure where he got off to. He's just mixing it up with the Tomb Guards at this point, but regardless of where Krell goes, he's going to be an absolute force of nature. But the Blood Knights are really going to be the main killing power here for taking down Cetra. So we'll grab some cinematics as Cetra, with his big old kitty here, fights it out, trying to take down these skeletons, but there's just an overwhelming amount of vampire counts at this point. The Tomb Kings are definitely behind on the balance of power, and yeah, I do think that, like I said previously, I think this matchup would have definitely gone in favor of the vampires every time, but with the buffs to Blood Knights and with Kemmler just being super cost effective, Krell being the monster that he is, you can see he's still just barely getting to his healing cap here, getting some nice hits on Cetra finally, as Cetra gets distracted by some of the other unit models in this area here. So yeah, I'm not really sure about the whole timeline of events, but would Krell have been a living Chaos Warrior around the time that Khemri was like a kingdom? Like the Tomb Kings were an actual nation of living humans? Be interesting to see how the timelines kind of match up there, to see if they ever would have fought while they were alive. But anyway, very fun stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that battle. It's definitely a good time in terms of vampire counts against Tomb Kings. Like I said, with the recent buffs to Blood Knights, they're definitely more effective in this matchup. They can run over the Tomb Kings infantry. They can shut down constructs relatively effectively, although, granted, we were fighting mostly against ranged type constructs, which are obviously not going to be quite as strong in melee, but they'll still be pretty serviceable. The Tomb Guard, you know, they'll cut through the non-Graveguard units, but they'll definitely suffer to the Graveguard. But you can see they definitely did well cutting through the skeletons there. All my skeletons were relatively inefficient. It really was down to the Graveguard and the Blood Knights also, and the Varix Reavers, of course. Varix Reavers not to be discounted. They're great against just clearing out infantry and just generally tying things up. You know, you can use them to tie something up and then get Krell in there or do various things. I like them as kind of a cheaper alternative to Blood Knights. Rather than running 3 Blood Knights, you run 2, and the Varix Reavers can be very effective in the multitude of matchups. The Dire Pack, you know, they did an okay job of tying down some spears. Not really what they're meant to do. But for my opponent, like I said, the Tomb Guard did pretty well. The Bone Giant was able to get some XP chevrons, but at the end of the day, just really didn't get the work done that it needed to. And I do think that even though you have some elite monstrous missile units as the Tomb Kings, especially on a map like that, where I was able to really use the terrain to my advantage and, you know, move my cavalry up through the forest. He didn't have any scouting units. Like if he had a carrion, like I said in the beginning, he would have been able to scout with the carrion and keep line of sight so that his bone giant could continue firing, because the bone giant really, the woods there weren't thick enough that the trees would actually stop the shots of the bone giant. It was mainly just visibility block. So if he'd been able to maintain visibility, the bone giant could have been a lot more effective in shooting those blood knights on the approach, rather than having to dedicate resources to instead shooting like the you know, the corpse cart, which granted is a decent target, but a $500 corpse cart compared to a 1,700 point unit of blood knights, you know, you can see the difference there in terms of cost disparity. But in terms of what I would do now is the Tomb Kings in this matchup. Cetra can be a pretty decent pick, just because he has a sword that gives him flaming damage, although he's relatively expensive. If we go ahead and have a look here, so the Tomb Kings, we've got, yeah, Cetra, might think about taking him on a horse just so that he maintains his anti-large bonus, and it also makes him a little bit of a smaller target as well. I personally usually only take these two spells just to make Cetra as cheap as possible. We'll grab the Blessed Blade of Petra as well. Crown of Nehekara is definitely thought, but if we have it, if we have the extra points for it, we may take it. I'm going to grab a couple of Tomb Guard with halberds to help counter knights. And then we're just going to go nice and cheap and wide in the front line, just because again, we can't really contest Graveguard very well. Skeleton Warriors, fighting Skeleton Warriors is going to be a wet noodle contest for a while, so I'm perfectly fine to take that particular engagement. So we'll do something like this, and then from there, you know, different constructs maybe, rather than trying to go with the ranged constructs, because again, even if the vampires can't necessarily take down the bone giant very quickly, which they do have some tools that can, you know, they're at least going to be able to get in your back line. So I would say the Regiment of Renown Necrosphinx can be pretty decent, the Sphinx of Usek, although I'm not sure how this guy fares against Blood Knights. Unsupported, probably not great, but obviously you'd want to have some support for him. Maybe grab some carrion, maybe not carrion, some skeleton chariots maybe could be a good idea, or I'm just trying to think of what you could do to really take down Blood Knights. I mean, you do have the two Tomb Guard with halberds. The question is, how are you going to bog them down? So maybe you grab a couple carrion just to tie them down, then your halberds and spears can maybe be a bit more effective. And at this point, we do need maybe a bit more punch in the front line, so maybe you grab some Ushabti. You know, you could change around a few costs here. Maybe you cut the Regiment of Renown and just grab a regular Necrosphinx, and then that allows you to grab another Ushabti. You know, there's some different things you could do, but I definitely think that going with the ranged construct focus is not necessarily the best against the vampires, just because they're very good at inundating your ranged units and shutting them down. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. What would you take to counter the shambling horde of Kemmler as the Tomb Kings? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.